All right, we are live. Good afternoon. We are all set for the live broadcast stream of the Louis C. Committee meeting, which stands for Labor, Education, Workforce, and Youth Committee meeting, meeting at 6 p.m. Sorry, it's one of those evenings at 6 p.m. on HPA-TV, Comcast, and from Frontier Government Channels 96 and 6032. It would also be streamed via HPA-TV.org, the HPA-TV Facebook page, and HPA-TV's Roku TV, Apple TV, and Amazon TV apps. It will also be rebroadcast and made available on the HPA-TV YouTube channel. So we have a lot of guests with us today, which I'm super excited about. And I'm going to go by the tiles, the Zoom tiles that are made available to me. And so we have Councilman John Gale, who is now a Louis C. committee member and voting member. Yes, thank you for joining the team. We have Elka Torres. Thank you for joining us. We have Mr. Bernard Thomas. We have Mr. Al Gary. We have committee member Councilman James Jimmy Sanchez. We have our HR Director Extraordinaire, Ms. Marlene. We have Councilwoman Rossetti, who is a voting member of Louis. We have Councilwoman Surgeon, who is a guest, but that's okay. She's welcome and always appreciative of her input and guidance. We have Corporation Counsel Alexandra Labardi. We have another Corporation Counsel, which I apologize. I always ruin your name. And so Ms. Mina, we have
Mina Manucci-More.
Mina Manucci-More. I gotta put that somewhere. Yeah,
it's Sierra, but she's new to our office, and we welcome her. She's going to be the backup to the committee.
Okay.
Right, Sierra. What is Sierra Manucci-More?
Right,
Manachi-Mori. Okay. We also have Director Nat Gale. We have Ms. Christina Baldwin, who is Associate Director for Department of Children, Youth, and Family and Recreation. And last but not least, we have our Majority Leader, Mr. TJ Clark. So thank you everyone for joining us today, and we'll call this meeting to order. So first, we do have some agenda bulleted items. But to kind of lay the foundation for our meeting, we're going to have Mr. Nat Gale, who is the ex officio, I'm not sure what your title is, of the Hartford School Building Construction Committee, who was placed by our COO, Ms. Thea Montanez, to kind of run and spearhead the meeting. Non-voting member, but to, again, spearhead the meeting. So Mr. Nat Gale, the floor is yours.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good evening, everyone. My name is Nat Gale. I am the Director of Capital Projects and Operations at the City of Hartford. And in that role, as Mr. Chair mentioned, earlier this year, in early 2022, I was named as the ex officio non-voting chair of the Hartford School Building Committee. So I thought I can give a brief overview of the committee itself. I'll talk through a little bit of the priorities that we talked about as a committee for this year. And then I'll talk through some of the qualities we're looking for in new members. So the first thing is the Hartford School Building Committee. You know, it's an agent of the City of Hartford in that it's the governing body for school construction projects. And so in that role, it actually oversees the largest portion of the city's capital improvement program. The school projects are more than half of our capital program. And in that right now, we have one of the largest projects underway that, quite honestly, the city of Hartford has probably ever taken on, $49 million project to renovate Buckley High School. Of incredible importance, right? Our school kids deserve, the best learning environments. As a product of the Hartford Public School System and somebody who lived through a school construction project at Hartford Public High School, I take this, role very seriously. I think, we need to be thinking about the users of our schools, the students, the faculty, the principals and the whole school community in this portfolio. And we need to wield taxpayer resources responsibly. Most of the funding for the school program comes from the state. The state has a percent share, and right now the city of Hartford, for our school renovation projects, we're fortunate to have a very favorable reimbursement of 95% for most school projects, and that is due to the financial hardship that the city of Hartford has had over the course of the years. The state gave us that favorable rate in our financial recovery. And so, currently we've got 2 projects underway, the Buckley renovation project and the Burns renovation project. The school building committee also oversees smaller, minor capital improvements for schools in general. They work with the director of facilities, Claudio Bazzano, and the COO, Sherry Davis-Gouge, in just capital improvements at, schools district-wide. It is a board of 7 members total, so 3 appointed from City Council, 3 appointed from the Board of Ed, and then a 7th that is elected from those 6 members. And at the beginning of this year, we did talk about priorities for the board for this year, and we talked about 3 different priorities that we're focusing on. The first is delivering projects on time and on budget. I think that is, it's important to set that goal from the outset because as anybody who's worked in construction knows, change orders are going to happen, and managing risk, managing schedule, managing budget are the name of the game. And so that's certainly going to be a focus of the members of the committee, and certainly something that's important to me. The second, as I mentioned, as a student who went through this, the second goal is going to be getting students involved. We are looking to work with some of the architecture, engineering, type of programs in our high schools to get them exposed to what it is to work in the construction trades, what it is to work in the professional services, design and construction fields. And that's just the beginning. I think, engaging with our student population will help us build the leaders of tomorrow. And I think this board has a really great opportunity to do that. And the third priority, and why we are here today, is having a fully seated board. The board has had only, 4 to 5 members out of the 7 over the last few years, certainly since as long as I've been here. And we need more membership. It's, an immense responsibility to oversee a portfolio of this size and this magnitude. And we need, all the support we can get, and, the duties of the council and the duties of the board, fulfilled in that. So, I'll talk a little bit about, what I think that, some of the qualities we're looking for in candidates. The first is a high standard of ethics. This is a program that, again, there's a lot of dollars involved and a lot of decisions that need to be made at the board level, approving contracts, approving change orders. And so, a high, ethical responsibility to wielding taxpayer resources is definitely something to consider. The second is an inquisitive mind. We need people on this board to ask questions and hold our contractors accountable to the work that they say that they're going to do, and hold the city government accountable to the work that we say that we're going to do. I think, sunlight is the best disinfectant, right? And so asking questions and being inquisitive and showing up, with things that you want to understand is very important. And then the third quality is a stomach for government processes. There are a lot of procurement processes that we have to go through that may take longer than anybody wants them to. And I would add in that a stomach for conflict. Asking questions is going to lead to conflict. And so we want, folks who are ready to lean in on that and deliver a program that we know is worthy of, the people of the city of Hartford, and most importantly, the kids that are going to school here in Hartford. So, Mr. Chair, I really appreciate the opportunity to give a little overview, and I'm happy to answer questions both now and as they come up throughout the course of the meeting.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you for that. And I like that statement. I'm actually going to use that moving forward. Sunlight is the best disinfectant. I don't know where you got that from, but that's great. And I'm going to use that moving forward. So I'm going to shamelessly steal that from you. I open it up to my council colleagues. If anyone has any questions, Councilman Gale, If you want to press Mr. Nat Gale, you're welcome to do so.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I I would like an explanation of the role or the what the interplay is between the school building committee and the state of Connecticut, how and through whom the state of Connecticut interacts with this building committee. And then I don't know if you can speak to it, but my understanding is that there's been some problems with that state connection. So I'd like to first understand what the state connection is, and then if you can speak to it, what problems you've seen with respect to that.
Sure. Thanks for those questions. The state is involved in a variety of ways. If there's no one way, the superintendent of schools is the entity that applies for the school renovation projects to the state, Office of School Construction. You may occasionally hear the acronym OSCGR thrown around. That's the state entity, the Office of School Construction Grants and Review. They are a subset of the state's Department of Administrative, or I'm not sure if they're under DAS or OPM, but they're a subset of one of those entities. So that's the group that reviews all of the applications and approves school construction projects. They are very heavily involved in that upfront review process. They want to know what the educational specifications are, what the enrollment is at the school, the school's current and projected enrollment. And they have licensed architects on staff who review the plans that are submitted prior to any award. Then once a project is awarded, they are involved in the review of invoices that are submitted by the city's program manager, involving the design and the construction. They approve the bid process once we go from design into construction and have a whole package of bids. I guess all that being said, the state is intimately involved from the very beginning to the very end, and they conduct an audit of all school projects. There has been some recent change in the state administration in terms of who was tasked with oversight of this Office of School Construction and Grants. And I've only been here a little bit over a year, so I have not been involved in the school construction program for a decade. But I have been involved in the program since starting with the city of Hartford, and I would say that again, so there are a lot of opportunities for what's the best way to say this? It's a program with a lot of responsibility and a lot of dollars flowing through it, and a lot of contracts awarded and a lot of decisions being made. I actually recently had to terminate a contract on one of these schools because it was, for lack of a better term, not the most financially prudent for the city of Hartford, but was something that the state suggested under the prior administration. And so I think that's one example of the way in which the state, prior to this current administration, was a little more actively and heavily involved in the details of the Hartford School Building Program, when it should have been left to the oversight of the School Building Committee. And the state really should just be reviewing invoices, making sure that we're following state statute, making sure that our architecture and design is up to snuff. And that's really where I think there have been some challenges in the past. I'm happy to elaborate on any of that because I'm sure I danced around the issue a little bit.
No, I think that was good. Councilman Gale, did that suffice?
Yeah, no. Thank you for the explanation. I'm not sure. Does the school building committee have a state representative attendant at all of its meetings?
No.
So it's just the state oversight that you mentioned.
Correct.
Got it. Thank you.
All right, I'll open it up. If you're all set, Councilman Gale, I'll open it up to my other council colleagues. Does anyone have any questions? All right, I'll go ahead and ask some questions. So, Mr. Gale, the more recently in the Hartford Current, we have seen a lot of, specifically two issues in regarding to local school construction. And a lot of it was connected to the state and the leadership at the state that, again, if I was to interpret it correctly, kind of pigeonholed school systems into contracts. And there is, and again, this is all alleged. I just want to make that clear. This is alleged. Some nefarious acts. Moving forward, has the system changed from what it was before, at least from the state level? Or is that something that you believe the state is going to move into the direction to provide more sunlight, to provide disinfectant?
Yeah, that's a great question. I can say unequivocally, there has been a change in tone and a change in practice from the state under the new administration. They are very, they want to make sure we, as both, as the city, are following state statute, and they are following state statute. I think that, to answer Councilman Gale's prior question, that was another issue. I think there was a rush to get a lot of things done, and that meant finding shortcuts to things that now we're having to, build better, processes for how projects get reviewed and approved. And so, Councilman LeBron, Mr. Chair, it's a much more, clearer process from the state and clearer oversight role from the state currently.
Yeah. So, in my estimation, and in your confidence, there is a better system of checks and balances. Okay. Wonderful. So the next question is in terms of compromise. We've seen there's been a new board. So this committee, just for full transparency, is, and I think you said it already, there's 3 Board of Ed members, 3 Board of Ed placements. There's 3 council placements, and then all 6 vote for a 7th seat. Can you tell us what the current compromise is, or our current, sorry, Councilman
Composition.
Composition. Thank you. I'm just all tongue-tied today. I didn't have lunch. Well, anyway.
Well, we also don't want to compromise anything.
We also want to compromise anything with our composition. So can you tell us our current composition, Mr. Gill?
Yes, right now, 3 seats are filled. So there is 1 seat from City Council filled by Councilman Clark, and there are 2 seats from the Board of Ed. 1 is filled by board member Kim Oliver, and the second is filled by Superintendent Torres Rodriguez, though she assigns Claudio Bizzano as her deputy to sit in her stead for the meetings.
Yes, and to my understanding, all of those seats' terms have expired, correct?
I was looking into that. I'm glad you mentioned that. I reread the bylaws, and it is not clear that there are term limits to these seats. And so that actually was another thing we discussed in this year's updating our bylaws, because it is clear that the officers are termed, so the chair and the vice chair, there are 2 vice chairs. Those have 2-year terms. But the members themselves, I couldn't find anything upon a further look about term limits.
Okay, so I'm going to refer to, it says officers, in terms of our recent ones, it says officers shall hold positions of a 2-year term. Now, isn't all folks that get placed there an officer? And maybe we have to loop in Corporation Counsel here. Ms. Lombardi, on one of the sections there, I'll read the entire section to you, and it states in terms of officers. So I guess the general question are Attorney Lombardi, are all of the members that are placed on committee called officers or deemed officers?
I don't think so, Councilman LeBron. I think that's referring to the term that they can hold in office within the committee. What I will do is refer back to the special act that created the school construction committee and see if that has the term limits in it, but I won't hold up the meeting. I'll let you know if I get that answer either before the meeting is over, or I can email it to you afterwards.
Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah, because that's going to be a critical piece here, but we'll go ahead and move forward. All right, so I'll tee it up for part of the ordinance as it pertains to Hartford specifically. We had a lot of conversation about the Minority Construction Council and their involvement overall in this process. Not in this process specifically, but to the work and the advocacy of the work of having more minority representation on the sites. So with that being said, we have Executive Director Jennifer Little Greer. Ms. Greer, I want to tee it up for you where you heard Mr. Gale's overview of what is desired of folks who would be placed on this committee, and just want to know like how your work kind of aligns or dovetails into the specifics around the school building construction committee.
Good evening, everyone. It's very important that when it comes for opportunities that we do have representation from our minority contractors. Most of the time, we do not have enough representation, or people do not know what's going on in that realm. We're normally on the backseat waiting and listening to what's happening. It's very important that we have someone that represents our contractors who can bring back the voice of the contractors. So it's just very important that we have representation there so that our minority contractors have a fair shake and are able to participate.
Thank you for that. I know you've spoken over the last few months about this topic, so I won't belabor the point and hold you, but I would allow my council colleagues to be able to ask any questions for Ms. Little Greer before we move on the agenda items. Any questions for Ms. Little Greer? All right, seeing none, we will move forward with okay. So first we have a resolution placed by myself for the nomination of Bernard Thomas to the Hartford School Building Construction Committee per the recommendation of the Minority Construction Council. So Mr. Bernard Thomas, the floor is yours. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself? I teed it up in a way for all the folks that have been nominated to kind of know what the work aligns with, what we're looking for, as well as the kind of the minority lens. So Mr. Thomas, the floor is yours.
Good evening, and thanks for having me. Currently, I am 63 years old. Construction has been in our family since I've been born. Carpentry through the local unions, through my father, and also my brother has been teaching at Prince Tech Carpentry, not to mention the years as I was growing up to working with the electricians, the plumbers, the painters, the roofers, the framers. I've always been involved, especially for 22 years, working within the city of Hartford. A lot of work that I have been doing was with the Hartford Knights Youth, not only mentoring the students and children throughout the city, but have helped over 123 children go to college. It has always been my support for the city of Hartford to help our people not only get a fair shake, but a better opportunity. As board chair of the Minority Construction Council, not only have I seen the injustice, Not only have I seen the opportunities for where individuals can definitely learn and grow, since under Executive Director Jennifer's realm, we have grown to close to over 200 members throughout, not only throughout the city, but also throughout the greater Hartford area. And I'm very proud to be able to support and serve those individuals. A lot of times our people don't understand the contracts that they're in. They don't understand the process that has to happen, and they need help and support. And that means also making sure that they truly understand exactly what they're committing to and what their responsibilities are. I've been on the South Windsor School Building Committee for over 3 years, and I've been on, I've worked with Rufus Wells from way back in the day when they started off with the committees for the school building, working as a minority oversight in support of the contractors that were working in the Hartford area. So it's my pleasure to be able to have the honor and the opportunity to be able to work with the school building committee. Thank you.
Sorry about that. So with that being said, what we're going to do is we'll go for, we have 4 recommendations, but I'll open up the floor for anybody who has questions for Mr. Bernard Thomas. Councilman Gale.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And good evening, Mr. Thomas, and thank you for being willing to serve on this very important committee. I mean, we're always, and I'll thank everybody in advance who's coming forward tonight. We're always appreciative of people who are willing to volunteer their time to help the city of Hartford in any way, shape, or form. First off, sir, I saw a resume attached, but I didn't see a home address. Can you just tell us where you live?
I currently live in South Windsor, Connecticut.
And did I understand from your comments that you are presently with the Minority Construction Council?
I am board chair of the Minority Construction. That is correct.
Is it the case that many of the members of the Minority Construction Council are contractors who have either had contracts on school building projects or are likely to bid on school construction projects in the future?
That is correct.
I have no other questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I'll open up the floor to any other person.
Yeah, I do have,
Yes,
Councilman Sanchez here. So I do have some questions, but the questions I'd like to ask for to everyone after they introduce themselves. Thank you.
So I'm sorry, there's just a lot of emails and stuff going back and forth. So I'm trying to juggle it all just to be fully transparent, because sunlight is the best disinfectant. All right. So what we're going to do, I just want to be clear. What we're going to do is we're going to have all four folks discuss. And then after each person talks, we'll open up the floor for questions for that individual person. So that way we can move it in a timely fashion. So, if there's no more questions for Mr. Bernard Thomas. Yes, Mr. Thomas, you have something to say? Yeah.
And I'd just like to say to the committee, I was raised in Hartford. I graduated at South Windsor High School, but all my work has been back here in Hartford, all with the education that I've learned and coming back to support the community. Everything that I have done for the community has always been here in Hartford, which is dear and near and dear to my heart. So I want to thank you for that.
All right. Am I on mute? Okay. So thank you, Mr. Thomas. Any questions? So I'm trying to communicate with folks as they are communicating with me as best as can, plus also running this meeting. Hold on one second. All right. Any other questions for Mr. Thomas? All right, seeing none, so we'll move on to Ms. Elka Torres, 2.2 on the agenda, recommended by Council President Rosado and Councilwoman Rossetti, with the company resolution confirming the appointment of Elka Torres to fill a vacancy on the Hartford School Building Construction Committee. Ms. Elka Torres, the floor is yours.
Good evening, everyone. My name again is Elka Torres. Thank you so much for the opportunity that you guys have presented to me. I am a Hartford resident. I actually came here from Puerto Rico when I was 12, and I did graduate from Hartford Public School. And unfortunately, at that point, it kind of needed the revamping and the construction back then, and it was too bad that I did not get to see that as I was growing up. I did go back a few years ago, and I saw how beautiful it looks. And well, what I can bring to the board is I'm very involved in our community. I am a broker. I work with Keller Williams right here. Their office is in Wethersfield. We do have offices pretty much throughout the whole state of Connecticut, but mainly my focus is to help the Latino and the minority community get homes and build wealth so they can leave that to their families, just because it's something that is true to my heart. I purchased my first home here in Hartford when I was 21. I still own it, very happy. I still have it. I do own properties throughout the Hartford. I'm a landlord. I'm also an investor, so I know when it comes to those budgets and those order changes, I am super familiar with them. So I can definitely relate to that. And also, I do have the background in accounting. I have a bachelor's in accounting. I graduated from CCSU. So I'm also very familiar with reviewing budgets, and because I did that for the state of Connecticut Department of Public Health for 19 years. I also worked for the Office of Policy and Management as well for about 3 years there as well, reviewing and making sure that all those numbers kind of match, and going back to our contractors and making sure that, you know, everything kind of matched. So that's it. That's me. I am. I do have a 25-year-old daughter, and I'm happily married for the last 21 years. So that's me. Any questions?
Yes, I'll open it up to my council colleagues for questions. Yes, Councilman Sanchez.
So it's more of a statement, and then I have a couple of questions. This is for all four. First of all, I want to thank all four of the candidates here for your interest in serving the community and the city on this board. My question to everyone, and for you to consider, is my understanding, like any other board, is somewhat time consuming, especially on the school building committee. It's quite a project, and there's several of those going on. So my question to all four candidates, do you have the time to commit to this committee, one, and two, how dedicated are you to this committee to make sure that it flows correctly, directly, and fairly?
So I guess I'll go first because I have the mic. Okay. If that's okay, you guys. Okay. I'm a realtor, so I am. When it comes to time management, you kind of have to make sure that you're making time for everything that's going on. And actually, for this meeting, it was the last, at least to my knowledge, it was the last meeting, and I just made sure that I made it work because it is important for me to be here tonight. And I am in another board, and I also make sure that I make time to be present and participate in those meetings as they come. And, you know, most of these meetings are planned in advance, right? And so that they will totally go into my calendar, and I'm completely committed to making the Hartford schools a beautiful place for students to go and learn.
I'll go next, if it's okay. One of the
Yes,
reasons
Mr.
why,
Thomas,
thank you. One of the reasons why I was on the South Windsor School Building Committee was to be able to learn how other school building committees operate, or, you know, around the state. I learned quite a bit. And I just recently, 2 weeks ago, stepped down from there just to make sure that I would have the time to be able to give the school committee, building committee, what type of support is looking from individuals coming on, and making sure that we are, you know, we do the best for the city of Hartford. So definitely make sure that I made time available to be able to support that.
all right. Thank you for that, Mr. Thomas. So any other questions for, yes, Councilwoman Hercule, Councilman Sanchez, any other questions?
Yes, I was hoping that Mr. Gary and Mr. Edison can answer those questions.
Yes, Councilman Sanchez, I was going to address that question at my turn at bat.
All right, thank you. Miss Councilwoman Hercules?
Thank you. Through you, Councilwoman LeBron. So Mr. Gale in his opening remarks talked a lot about the ethical requirement and the duty of ethics, which is very important. And I appreciate those who have spoken, speaking about their commitment to Hartford. I guess this is a question specific, obviously, to the person on up to bat right now, but also if everyone can answer this when they're giving their description, because certainly these are complicated and complex contracts, and they involve both local ordinances as well as state statutes, and maybe even some federal regulations with respect to environmental requirements. And as we know, we have schools that are now closed as a result of environmental toxins that have festered for many years. God only knows what kind of damage this may have done to students. And so I would like to hear a little bit about due diligence with respect to reading complicated construction documents, your familiarity with state, federal, local ordinances and statutes, and how you would ensure that under your watch, those types of things would not happen again. Certainly, you know, not only the building of beautiful schools, but also the maintenance of the current schools that are in existence, and ensuring that those are up to code and are safe and not hazardous to our students. So I would just appreciate a little bit more on those points when folks are giving, you know, their overview, because I think that is really the core of the work of this committee, obviously, to work alongside state and local officials who are tasked with ensuring that our buildings, our school buildings are safe.
Thank you, Councilwoman Hercules. The next is, any other questions from my council colleagues for Ms. Torres? All right, so we'll move on to the next resolution, which is introduced by Councilman Sanchez. There's a resolution appointing Edison, Silva, and Albert Gary to the Hartford School Building Construction Committee. So with that being said, why don't we have Edison, since it's listed that way. Edison, why don't you, the floor is yours. So Edison Silva joined us while we were in the middle of conversation. So Mr. Silva. All right.
Unmute your mic.
Yeah, Mr. Silva, can you unmute? Okay, well, we'll give him time.
Okay.
Go ahead. Yeah, there you go.
Hello. Can
The floor is
everyone hear
yours.
me now?
Yes, the floor is yours.
Okay. Good evening. I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity to serve the city of Hartford. I've always been, I came here in 1975 and I left for a little while for other job opportunities, but did come back. And in coming back, I was actually surprised at some of the progress that we have made in our city. And one of the biggest reasons why I did stay living in Hartford was because in the area that I live, it was really giving my daughter the opportunity to have an education because of the improvements that have been made to the schools in the city of Hartford. So firsthand, I realized the importance of having schools, buildings, environments that are conducive for young children to learn and to grow and to move on. And I am really grateful. One of the things that makes me feel very proud about my daughter, having when she went to college and she would, mention that she was from Hartford, the disbelief in people that she was a product of our school system. So that is something that I'm grateful for, and that I understand the importance of, again, having school environments that are conducive to learning. As a professional myself, I'm a graduate from the School of Social Work at the University of Connecticut. And as life would have it, I've worn many, many hats and doing other things, everything from healthcare to construction. And I was the administrative manager for the Department of License and Inspections, where I obtained my assistant building official. So I understand, I know that one of the questions was understanding codes and understanding regulations as it pertains to building and construction. And I have a very good understanding of that as well. Once I left the city, I also obtained certifications in asbestos and lead removal and remediation. So I think I have a very strong foundation when it comes to code enforcement and understanding code enforcement in the construction area. To Councilman Sanchez's question of time, again, I am retired. The only thing that keeps me busy these days is baseball umpiring. I do umpire baseball to stay busy, and as well as refereeing soccer. And those are seasonal, as you all know. And believe it or not, having the experience of going to other towns to see the schools and the facilities where these young people play these different sports also has given me an opportunity to see things that work and probably don't work for young people. So I think that having those backgrounds and that understanding will help me serve on this community in a way that it can be productive for our city. If anyone has any questions, feel free to do so, please.
Thank you, Mr. Silva. I open it up to my council colleagues if they have any questions. I figure Mr. Sanchez probably has the question. I don't know if
He answered my question.
Oh, he did? Great.
Yes, and absolutely. Thank you.
And Councilman Gibb.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Silva. I see on your resume that you worked construction in some capacity prior to coming back to the city. overseeing some projects. Can you speak to any of those projects and what the size of them were?
Yeah, when I came back to Hartford, I worked with Dreska Construction and in a supervisory role, and we at the time did participate actually in 2 school projects. When first it was that Hartford High, when they were going through their renovations, they had temporary buildings that were installed for the students during the time that the inside of the school was being renovated. So we participated in that. We did that part of the construction, and we also had a second project wow. The school escapes my memory right now, believe it or not. But we had a second project in the West End and this was around 2004. And that was also renovations, wanting all the wiring through the schools and doing the preparation for the electrical connections and the data into the school.
Was that Webster School by any chance?
Yes, it was. I'm getting old here. I sometimes do forget some of my past adventures, if you may.
Yeah, join the club. Yeah, no problem. All right,
That's
thank
fine.
you very much. That was
Perfectly fine. Thank you, Councilman Gill. Anybody else has any questions for Mr. Silva? Okay. All right, moving forward. Last but not least, we have Mr. Albert Gary, but I think most folks know him as Al Gary. So, Mr. Al Gary, you have some of the prompted questions that council colleagues have asked previously, so you can kind of bake that into your discussion. So the floor is yours, Mr. Gary.
Okay, now I'm unmuted. Thank you very much, everyone. I'm delighted to be here. I think I'll just start off by just telling you a little bit about myself. It's a one-page resume, but I'll compact it very tight. I came to Hartford from Springfield in 1969, which time I joined Purcell Associates. I've been working in many engineering and architectural firms. Purcell Associates was an engineer, mostly civil. I served there as a principal planner, designing urban settings, and also writing planning and zoning ordinances for Waterford, Connecticut, and also New London. Then I moved on to HUD. I worked there as a community development representative. I think I represented maybe 5 towns in Connecticut, monitoring their applications to HUD for various assistance programs, marrying their projects with what was available from HUD. And then from there to C.E. McGuire, there as a senior planner, using my architectural preparations, site planning, urban design, and landscape architecture. From there, I went to Yale University, where I became worked up to become the assistant director of facilities planning. It was an interesting stint in the medical school, because facilities planning, it's not the janitor that you may think it's all about. Oh my goodness, no, it's very complicated. I managed a alterations budget of $5 million a year, whereas the dean would give me $5 million and everybody wants my money. So I was very popular during that period, and we did a lot of very tricky little design systems for laboratories and classrooms for the medical students. I found out while being there that the toughest thing about Yale is getting into it. Getting out is not so hard. Getting in is the trick. After that, I thought I was smart enough to start my own business, which I did. Oh, by the way, I never moved to New Haven. My home base was always Hartford. I loved everything about this. I'm not from Hartford. I'm from Columbia, South Carolina, by the way. Born and raised there. But coming from Yale, starting my own business, I learned a heck of a lot from 81 to 2001, I think it was, when I went to Waterford. But AEG Design Build became large enough that I had 21 employees at one particular time that were actually, employees. They were not subcontractors or anything like this. Was my operation down on Windsor Street. I kind of figured out that this was something that I enjoyed, but I became a social worker. Being an employer in a construction company is a very strenuous work. So I decided to leave that and going into consulting. But before I did, I was hired down at back in New Haven, as a matter of fact. People remembered my activity there from the medical school, and I joined the housing authority, at which time I was hired as their senior architect. And I wrote contracts for them. I wrote, I managed a whole bunch of stuff down there. It was incredible. That period of time I was there. I left there after, actually I was hired for a particular purpose to New Haven, completed that, and then, in other words, I worked myself out of a job. I was hired for specifics, and I completed it and left and came back to Hartford, and I created a construction management company, which I am still operating. It's a small little interest. Instead of being employed, I'm self-employed now, and I choose my clientele. It's not a 9 to 5. If it doesn't fit for me, I just won't do it. It's more of a, is the project interesting, is the clientele an interest, or do they have the same interest as I? Can I service that? Can the relationship between me and the client and the project be beneficial? But also I want to emphasize that, oh, by the way, when I was, I watched with interest the construction of the new Weaver when I lived in, when I first came to Hartford. But I think Weaver was under construction like 1970 or something like that. I can't remember exactly, but that's when it all started. During the span of years that I'm trying to compact into something very simple, I was the visiting lecturer at RISD, Rhode Island School of Design, School of Architecture. I went there a couple of times and spoke with the architecture students. I told them it was important for architects to get out of the classrooms and into the field and learn how to nail and how to drive a hammer and work, instead of designing things that are not buildable. I mean, they're pretty, but they don't work. You should be out in the field and get some experience in construction, and that'll help you in your design elements. I actually, as a consultant right now to HEDCO, I've taught maybe about 12 classes in blueprint reading to some of the minority contractors in Hartford. It's a 12-week, 2-hour per week class. So it's not a seminar, it's a class, whereas people actually learn how to read blueprints. I use, as an example, at the end of my class, my students are able to read blueprints of Walgreens, school projects. I use real live projects for them to see exactly what they are reading, and I've been very successful there. We're starting that up again with the land bank cohorts. They have reached over to HEDCO, and we are going to continue that on with the land bank students there. So, gee whiz, I don't know. And there's something that I'd like to let everyone know that I'm very proud of. I'm the designer of Harbor Park down in Middletown. A lot of people don't know that, but that is my claim to fame. I think it's being redone now, but and I also told them, don't put anything on the first floor because it floods every year. Little did I know that the federal government pays them every year to, after it floods, to clean it up and renovate the downstairs. So it doesn't make sense, but that's what they did. The other thing that I'm proud of is that the pedestrian bridge between City Place and the Civic Center, I was a project manager of that, and found many mistakes that Skidmore, Owens and Merrill had done on their plans in doing this, but that's part of construction. You're there to for the good of the project, and you're not to, well, I won't go into a learning period there. I think, I don't know, that's pretty much it. I designed an island off the coast of Puerto Rico. I've done, oh dear, so much. I think I'll stop there. To your point, to Councilman Sanchez's point about time management, I am on another commission right now. I'm on the Historical Commission. I was on the Golf Commission. I couldn't do both of those because they happen to meet at the same time. And one other point I'd like to raise is that during when John Motley was the chairman of the school building committee, I was attending all those meetings during that time. It was, I think the meeting, well, I don't think, I'm sharing with you that the meetings were in the library at that particular time. And every month, I was there with all interests. It wasn't an assignment, it was all interest. And I learned how it all works. It's a very deliberate dance. The other thing I'd like to let you all know is that most of the construction managers in the school system here providing services to us, I know them. I've worked with them over all the years, and they know me. So I'm familiar with the operation. I'm familiar with how it all works, and I would be very, very happy to provide my experiences as they may apply to what the school system is doing. As to the time management, if I find that it becomes difficult for me to be effective on this commission, I will either stop one or the other or resign. I will not struggle with this or anything of that nature. And I'm also attracted to the commission because of Nat Gale. I watched him grow up. He's my neighbor, and I'm thrilled that youth is driving the bus. I'd love it, and I'd love to be able to pass whatever baton I have, whatever knowledge I've gained, and bring it over with me and pass it on to another Hartford resident that is interested in just making it all happen here for Hartford. I'm really glad to see Nat back. He left us for a while, but he has returned. I'm very happy about that. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Gary. Thank you, Mr. Gary. So under the assumption that Mr. Gale is young, we'll move forward to and that's the latter, Gail, I would presume. But nonetheless, I'll open up the floor to my council colleagues for questions for Mr. Algary.
I might also add, if while you're thinking of questions, it's hard for a person to talk about themselves. It's hard for me to do that. I've been often asked, tell me what you do on an elevator ride between the first and the fifth floors. That's a difficult challenge. I'd also want you all to know that I like people. I'm a good people person. And I tend to work very well, good player. I work very well with people. When we have a common goal, it's clear. I want it clear, and I want to make sure that it's clear between all decision makers so we can walk out with a common goal, succeeded. That's basically intent in life. By the way.
Yes, Councilman Sanchez.
Yes, I want to thank everyone for sharing your, who you are, your experience, and the opportunity to serve. I would like to hear that being appointed onto this board, what are your main goals, each one of you? What are your main goals to accomplish? And obviously we know it's to help the city of Hartford, is to make sure that, everything is projected correctly and forward. But what are your specific goals that you want to accomplish being on this board? And before you answer, there is two things that's more of a request from my part, is that I would hope that you guys would look into the drawings, the conceptual drawings, and the way the school will be renovated or rebuilt, so that it will be more environmentally friendly, environmentally aesthetically friendly, and also using state-of-the-art technology. For example, and I've always been pushing this, UV lighting in the air handling unit, for example, which is going across, being used across the country, but yet we're still not there, and this is the capital of the state. I think we need to lead this effort, and it's not only the UV technology in the air handling system, but any other technology that will help our students, our teachers, to be safe in the school system, as well as outside in the yard, in the practice area for baseball, football, or so forth. So those are my two requests when you're on that board. But what are your specific goals? Just one, each person.
I don't know. I'll tee it up. So if folks want to just kind of go in line, however, I won't pick on anyone. So please unmute your mic, and whoever wants to go first.
I'll go first. Obviously, other than the things that you said in regards to the city of Hartford, but to me, it's the opportunity for our contractors to grow. Not only to grow, but to have opportunities, and also that we don't look outside of Hartford, because there's always a saying that we don't have enough contractors within Hartford. The contractors are here. The problem is the process is difficult for quite a few individuals, and they need help and support. So I don't want to fish for our contractors. I want to teach them how to fish, because education to me is important, because we can't always be hand holding individuals. So for me, it's about individuals growing. And when we have individuals growing, we got a better opportunity. And when we have a better opportunity, we have a better product. Thank you.
Feel free to chime in. Whoever wants to take the mic, Mr. Garrett, Ms. Torres.
I was giving some serious thought to that. My main, Councilman Sanchez, how did you say that? What is my main goal? My main, my main.
Well, specifically to your, what your main goal would be, your personal main goal to for this commission, for this board.
Well,
we know the responsibility overall.
I get it. I'm just thinking. I'm a problem solver. That's why I probably will never retire. My wife argues with me about that, but I like waking up in the morning and solving a problem. If there's a problem, I'm going to attack the problem. I like to use as much of my experience I have and my deductive reasoning approach along with those experiences to solve those problems. And this isn't a well, it's often that commissions are set up and they tend to be rubber stamps, or I'm prepared, I think personally, to be able to scrutinize and to really evaluate what we're looking at, as opposed to being a yes person. I'm going to bring, my goal is to bring to that table, to this body, a knowledge base of engineering, architecture, and planning that can be applied to making for better facilities, better school facilities. I think that's my major goal. I have a minor goal, having been a minority contractor, understanding and having hired minority contractors. I'm right now I'm building 14 two-family houses in the North End of Hartford that are for sale. My minority participation on my job is 98%. And 50% of those are Hartford residents. I think I've been down to New York to learn how the minority contractors work in New York City on the it's hard when things are right here and you want to call them out. Well, the school system down there is, well, it's a little complicated. I really can't sum it up this quickly. I'll come back to that. However, just to end with this, that's my main purpose, is bring me and all that I have amassed over all my years to this table to benefit what our purposes are here, and that is to provide good facilities for our kids.
Thank you.
Guess I'll go next. Edison, you're last. I'm the only girl, so might as well fit in. For me is to make sure that this process is being done with integrity, and just to make sure that the people that we're choosing to do this kind of work are as ethical as we are, they're as hard worker as we are, and they look like us and they live where we live, right? Because most of the times we get left on the side of the table. Like, I remember listening to this talk once where if you're not in the menu, you're just a side dish. So I really wanted to be a part of this important process, because I feel that if our students if our students are going to great schools, a lot of great things are going to come out when those students leave, right? They have to feel that they're safe. They have to feel that they're in a clean environment. I've been to some of these schools, and obviously my daughter's 25, but I do help out with my niece and nephew. They're only 6. And I've been to some schools that it's really sad to step my heels in, right? So I want to be part of that process just to kind of help, just be a part of it as a Hartford resident. In regards to technology, I'm all about it. I drive an electric vehicle. I'm all about saving as much as we can, all about technology, because that's the way to the future. So any way we can, make a school safe, where we're using the highest technology, I think they have my vote. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, my turn. I want to start by saying that even though I am advanced in age, and doesn't mean I'm old, but I've been around for a while, and I truly believe that we are always learning. So bringing to this committee what I know and being able to hear what other people actually, or members of the committee, can bring, and we can share that, so that at the end of the day, we could present a product to our city that is in the best interest of the city, not only for our children, but also for our neighborhoods. I truly believe that good schools, starting from the aesthetics to the technology, does attract people wanting to live in those neighborhoods. So as I look at the bigger picture of what the city is, I just hope that I can contribute in a way that we can have an impact in the way our neighborhoods grow along with the schools that they surround. So I hope that I can make an impact and a contribution in that fashion.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Silva. All right. So any other questions from my council colleagues? All right. Seeing none, thank you to Elka Torres. Mr. Gary, yes.
Yes, may I just add one more thing in closing? Sure. I went to New York City and visited the Regional Alliance of Small Contractors, sat with them for, I think, a couple of days. And it was just to learn how they deal with their efforts to make sure minority contractors are not just only used, but they grow into their systems down there. The Port Authority, strangely enough, is the authority that manages, or is the parent over the umbrella of the schools, which is interesting. However, the Regional Alliance of Minority Contractors is the clearinghouse for minority contractors in everything that the Port Authority does. And if you're going to come in there and do work for the Port Authority, you will incorporate the Regional Alliance of Small Contractors. And through this relationship, and also watching what happened down in Atlanta with the airport, we know that the mayor down there was in fact in the construction of his airport. So Mayor Jackson, Regional Alliance of Minority Contractors, there's samples out there how we can incorporate and best utilize our contractors. And Bernard is correct. We do have contractors and we do have good tradespeople, but we need to direct them as to being prepared. And that's something that I have realized in my services as a consultant to HEDCO in interviewing and assisting some of the minority contractors in preparing for projects. And there's work to be done on our side to assist them in preparing themselves for the work itself. I'd like to say that. Thank you.
Thank you. So one of the things that I want to remind all of the school building construction appointments is that there's the school building construction committee meeting, but there's also subcommittee meetings that most of the work gets done there. And so there's a lot of time that needs to be placed with this, but I think everyone knows what they signed up for. So with that being said, we're going to move ahead with our meeting. So Ms. Elka Torres, Mr. Bernard Thomas, Mr. Al Gary, and Mr. Edison Silva, you guys can log off. We're going to talk amongst ourselves. Thank you so much, Ms. Jennifer Little Greer. Thank you for taking your time for coming on last minute. And we're going to continue the discussion. So you guys are welcome to watch via HPA-TV and the broadcast network.
Thank you for the opportunity.
All right.
Thank you for your consideration.
Absolutely. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
So team, while we have everyone here, I want to defer back to the original ordinance that we changed and the composition. The bylaws, as I understand it, and Attorney Lombardi, I believe you're on deck, so please correct me if I'm wrong. The bylaws don't supersede the ordinance. Is that correct?
That's right, Councilman. The bylaws would only get their authority from whatever constituted the body in the first case. The complicating factor when it comes to the Hartford School Building Committee is that while we have an ordinance, we also have the Special Act 1-7 that talks about the current constitution of our Hartford School Building Committee, that being, 3 people by the board, 3 people by the council, and the 7th person elected among those 6. So neither the Special Act or the bylaws specify a term for any of the members of the Hartford School Building Committee.
Right.
However,
yeah, sure.
what seems to flow from the fact that that the body is appointed by the board and the council would be that whenever a new board or council is installed, that board or council would appoint whomever they want to those roles, whether it be reappoint people who had previously served or appoint new people to the Hartford School Building Committee.
Thank you very much. So Attorney Gale, and thank you, Attorney Lombardi. I appreciate that. Attorney Gale and I worked on this, and I defer to the ordinances chapter section 28-190 that outlines what Attorney Lombardi stated. So you guys, if you guys need me to email that to you, I'm willing to do that. So with that being said, one of the other things I believe we have as a council body, we only have 3 seats that we can appoint for. And so what the section B, section 28-190 -B, whatever, I'm sorry, I'm not a lawyer, I don't know how to say it, so correct me if I'm wrong, does implicate or does state the fact of an alternate. So there is the possibility of an alternate, and I'll read from the ordinance. And Councilman Gale, I'm sure you're pulling it up. It looks like you are. Any such alternate member shall have all the powers and duties of a member of this committee. So there is possibilities of an alternate. So with that being said, we have 4 folks for 3 seats. And I just want to kind of make that clear and be fully transparent. As Nat Gale said, the sunlight is the best disinfectant. So I want to have a discussion with my colleagues about how we see the alternate position, how we see the current composition, and then take suggestions. I want to have an open dialogue on this. Councilman Sanchez.
Yes, this is through you, Mr. Chair. This is a question for Attorney Lombardi. So at this moment, with the resolution on hand, and knowing that, or now knowing that we can also add an alternate, is there a possibility to make a friendly amendment on these resolution to also add 1 alternate, and we can name that person this evening?
So in order to, so the amendment would have to be by council. Your recommendation, oh, right. Okay, let me think this through. So you want to amend what's before the committee to report. So you'd essentially be reporting out unfavorably the original resolution that's before you and recommending an alternate?
No. I'd like to send this resolution to council favorably. I'm not making a motion at this moment, but
yeah,
I would like to send it favorably to council with a friendly amendment to add an alternate.
So Councilman Sanchez, if I can interject, I think before we do that, I think that's step 2. I think what we should do, since we have 4 folks, does it make sense to the team that we sever one of the resolutions so that way we can vote on it, folks, individually, and therefore deem an alternate that way? I would love to have a discussion about that. Councilman Gale, Councilman Rossetti, Councilman Sanchez, let me know your thoughts. Councilwoman Rossetti?
Chair?
Yes.
Well, I think, there's a lot of things thrown around here, but I think the first step would be to sever, I have an old agenda in front of me, sever the ones with the 2 so we can vote on all 4 separately. I think that would be the first step.
Yeah. And so let me back up even before that, Councilwoman Rossetti, and I want to apologize to all my council colleagues and my council members here. We updated the agenda yesterday based upon the council meeting on Monday that had Elka Torres on there. We wanted to include her in a timely manner and provide our fairness. I want to apologize to the team here as I was out yesterday with a personal matter, as folks know, so I wasn't able to communicate that. And so that's why you may have seen possibly 2 agendas, but the link on, I don't know if it's called Munis or whatever that's called, not Munis, it's called something else, has the current agenda. So I want to apologize to everyone first, but I think we have a motion to sever item, what is it? Item number 2.3. Is there any second?
Second.
All right, so moved. All in favor of severing item 2.3? Say
Aye.
aye. Aye. Okay, so we've done that. So Attorney Lombardi, going back to Councilman Sanchez's conversation, he mentioned, is there possibility on any one of these items that we can make an amendment that they be added as an alternate? Is that possible? Can we add something to one of these folks as an alternate?
Yeah, unfortunately, so I just need to go back to the fact that, yes, we do have an ordinance about the Hartford School Building Committee, but I'm trying to very quickly figure out the legislative history here because.
Attorney Lombardi, would it be helpful if I send you our most recently revised version? Would that help?
Well, yeah,
I don't know if you have it. I hope it.
I'm
again,
looking
I don't know.
I'm looking at Muni code, so
that
won't work.
Okay,
It's not updated there. Would it be helpful if I sent you this document?
Please do.
Okay, let me do that. Thank you, Councilman Gill, for reiterating that. So I know we have our I just sent it to you now, Attorney Lombardi. So with that being said, why don't we do this? We have our HR director, which I'm very happy that she's here. Why don't we circle back on this item so Attorney Lombardi can digest the ordinance. It isn't too long, but again, I don't want.
What's your specific question, Mr. Chair? On the
ordinance? No, there's no specific question.
Well, is it a question as to whether we have the power to appoint an alternate?
An alternate, yeah.
That's what I'm concerned about.
I mean, I think that's the question. If we have the power to appoint an alternate, I'm sure we're a committee. We can send anything we want back to council.
Right. That's what I'm thinking.
But I don't know if we have the power to appoint an alternate.
Well, I'm referring to section Attorney Lombardi 28-190 section B, and I see Marlene hanging in the wind here, Attorney Gale. So I wanted Attorney Lombardi to kind of chew on that for a little bit, and then we can circle back because Director Marlene has a great presentation for us. And that way, I think it would simultaneously provide Attorney Lombardi with the time needed to really digest something that she's looking at now. Is that fair to say, Councilman Gale? Is that okay?
You're the chair.
Okay. All right. So we're going to do that. So we're going to move on. So, and we'll circle back to this item. Is there an official thing I got to say or something like that? As the chair? No? Okay. So no official thing. All right. I'm sure thing is a very prominent legalese word. So with that being said, we're going to move on to, section 2.5. We have Director Marlene Fleeting here. We're very excited to have her here. And Director Fleeting, the floor is yours.
Well, good evening, everyone. Good evening, Councilman LeBron and the rest of the councilmen and women. Thank you for having me. Just wanted to say, give a little background on myself. I am born and raised in Hartford. I am Hartford, right? I went to every school besides college in Hartford. I was the first class of the classical magnet school that started on Edward Street at Quirk Middle, and then went over to Hartford High School. I actually lived in Bowles Park and living right next door to Weaver High School, but I was going to Hartford High because I was the first class of the classical magnet program. And yes, HPHS. I know that Nat and Councilman Gal, and yes, Nicola Brown, we could, you know. So Hartford is near and dear to me. I began working at the city of Hartford 20 years ago in the tax collector's office as a cashier. And I was able to rise up in the ranks. And now I am the director of HR. So this is where I am today. I came in last year, or 2 years ago as the assistant director. And now I'm the director. So I'm happy to just share a little bit with you guys. I know that Councilman LeBron, an agenda was prepared for 4 topics. One of them is which was the hiring practices to include diversity. So just to I won't be before you long, wanted to touch on that and just let you all know that the city of Hartford is very diverse. Just in last year alone, 70% of our new hires for the year was diverse. We have over 60% overall in our full-time workforce being of diversity. When you think about the city of Hartford, you cannot help but to think of how diverse we are. That's one thing I love about the city, of Hartford and this workforce. We're also a second and even sometimes third chance employer. And I'm not really sure how many organizations can really say that. They can really say that, we look and we do background checks, and that doesn't deter us from hiring people. Everyone deserves a second chance and even sometimes a third chance. So the city of Hartford does that. We do that really well. So I'm happy about that. Also, I wanted to just touch on, and I guess you can jump in if you need to, but I'm just going to continue going on.
If you could keep going on the items and overall, and what we'll do is we'll just ask the general questions as we go along. If you want it that way, Ms. Fleeting.
Yeah. Oh yes, that's fine. Okay, yes, that's I prefer that way. And as far as one of the other topics was on the agenda was onboarding. What we do as far as onboarding our candidates, we have a NeoGov system, which is an electronic system that we use, and it allows our candidates to electronically sign documents such as W-4s, state and federal documents. It allows them to gives us the authorization to do background checks and things like that. So people don't have to come inside. If they want to fill out an application online, they can do that. If they want to come in, they can also do that as well. We're here every day for them. And we have a table right outside. We have people inside every day. So we onboard people electronically and in person as far as the candidates are concerned. Anything that the candidates need, we are here for them electronically and again in person. We also have our work culture was another topic that that was on the agenda. And I love our culture. We are we just promote a healthy work-life balance here. Our benefits team works tirelessly on benefits such as to our employees, such as the healthy weight loss challenge. They have commitments to virtual and in-person sessions, but as far as like eating well, we have Alzheimer's, a virtual session on Alzheimer's, working with people. So with that, so you can get education on Alzheimer's and things like that if you have family members or loved ones that are experiencing that. So I'm happy about that. Again, our benefits team, they work really, really hard, as well as our team here with all of our employees with assisting them with whatever needs they may have. We have employee assistance program, which is also known as EAP. We use their services for trainings. We use their services privately. Everything is confidential for our employees and members of their family. They have utilized them for years and years and years, and we still utilize them to this day. We're also working, partnering with Nat Gale and Karen Taylor, who's our Director of Diversity and Inclusion, with the Leadership Greater Hartford team. And we're working on doing surveys, and we're doing focus groups with our employees right now. And we're looking at training our supervisors. I think that for a work culture to be successful, everyone needs to be trained from higher all the way down to entry level. And so we work with, again, we're working with Leadership Greater Hartford with that. And let's see, what else? COVID, we're just gonna keep going. COVID was tough, right? It was something that we weren't anticipating. I don't think anyone in the world was anticipating a global pandemic to strike 2 years ago. But it did. And the city's response was phenomenal, in my estimate. They responded quickly, they responded efficiently and effectively to benefit all of our employees. We sent out literature. We worked hand in hand with our Health and Human Services Department, who did a phenomenal job, as well as our benefits team, who are currently and continuously serving our employees with any questions, any information they need. We have offered from vaccination to boosters to COVID home kits to PPE to testing, Monday through Sunday, to knocking on doors to get people tested. We had isolation center staff working, knocking on doors, getting people what they need. If they couldn't get out, we brought the test to them. Again, this is in partner with HHS, who did a lot of this work, and our benefits team, HHS, our fire, police. I mean, it was a collaboration with city departments to make sure that our employees received what they needed during COVID. Again, this is a time that none of us anticipated. However, we worked through it, and we continue to work through it daily and assist our employees in anything that they may need. So I would just really like to say kudos to the city of Hartford, because it really, really responded well to COVID. And again, we continue to do that day to day. So that's all I have.
Great. Thank you for that, Councilwoman Rossetti.
First of all, thank you, Director. And just really, do I love hearing your story? Because your story is the stories we like to hear continually. From here, start here, go there. It really, it's amazing. It warms my heart. And not only are you qualified for the position.
Thank you, Councilwoman. I appreciate that.
How do we define, when you say diversity, how do we define diversity? What's the definition of that for the city of Hartford?
We define diversity as being able to have a workforce that is not that is open, an open range. It's not limited to a specific ethnicity. It's not limited to a certain education. It's not limited to, you must have this or you must have that. We are diverse in so many ways here, whereas, okay, you may not have a college degree, but guess what? You are as valuable as the next person that does not have one, right? We work with so many people from all sorts of backgrounds and everything. So diversity is so wide, from education to ethnicity to the future, where you want to go, right? So I think I would just define diversity as just an overall body of different people. I guess I would say.
And through you, Mr. Chair, one further thing. I would continue to encourage, and I know we do, when you said second chance, I always say, particularly where we hire too, second, third, fourth, fifth chance. If we all had a way to look at our lives and think of the opportunities we've been given. So I encourage the city and you as the leader of HR to continue to look at opportunities for people who have either not had an opportunity, unusual stress, and look past that second and third. So thank you again.
Yes, Councilwoman, thank you. And we do that all the time. We do that daily. Even if we were to get a background back, I sit with individuals so many times because we all, like you said, we all have a past, we all have a life, we all may have done things that we're not proud of or that we wish that we didn't do, right? And that doesn't mean that it's over. It's never over. It's never you're never too old to learn, and it's never over. So again, I love that about the city, and I'm so honored to be able to sit in a chair where I can give people the second, the third, the fourth chances that they need.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Sanchez, Councilman Gale, any questions?
Yeah. Yes, I do have a question. Thank you for your presentation, Director. Very happy to have you on board with us here in this meeting. So my question right now is with, the hiring process. I've been seeing and receiving emails of, open positions. And I try to, what I do is I email that to myself and I put it on my Facebook pages. But my question to you is, why has it been difficult? And I understand COVID may be a part of it, but why has it been difficult to find people to fill in these positions? Obviously, we know we're trying to be diverse, but we also want to make sure that we have qualified people that understands and can handle the job and serve the people, well. So do you have a count, or can you send council a report of the lack of staff for each department, and how often are we trying to post and repost for the same positions? So that maybe, I'm not sure if you have a plan to address that, or maybe collectively we can all get together and brainstorm on how to fill in these positions.
Okay, yes, Councilman Sanchez, thank you for the question. I can send something to you all. We have a vacancy report that we have, which shows all open positions for each department. I will say that we are in what we call, and this is nationwide, like the Great Resignation. We have now people are like, the workforce isn't what it used to be. So we're all challenged with trying to attract and retain talent. That's one thing that we work on daily. We work on, the different city departments we meet about it and we talk about it. So it is definitely high on our radar, and it's something that we meet and we talk about like tirelessly as well. But I will get you a report of the vacancy for all of the departments. And if you have any questions after that, you can just contact me.
Okay, and also can you include in that report the job descriptions and when are we going to post them again?
Yes, and
Okay.
just so you know, what we do is when we post jobs, and if like we don't get a great response back, or if we always repost, so if the department say, okay, well, can you repost? We repost and we repost, because again, we're trying to attract and retain talent, and so we do constantly repost.
Right,
But
I have seen that. Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Councilwoman Surgeon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Director, for giving us this report. A couple of things. I remember you from your response to Councilman Sanchez. I know due to COVID, give us a couple of ideas of examples of how you guys are thinking outside the box so we can retain staff and hire staff. That's number one. Number two, one of the things from last year's budget, I have I've got this thing about job description for the city of Hartford. The job descriptions for the city of Hartford, when was the last time it's been updated? and I know that working with the unions have to agree to it, so on and so forth. But we're into the 21st century, and you have job descriptions that's from the 1900s, not the 1900s, but 1990s, not the 1900s. And so, for example, right now, from I read the Hartford Current, couple of things is, this is the summer's coming up. People are posting from different towns looking for lifeguards and there's summer help. Have we started doing that outreach? I know the cost or the salary is a little bit high, but are we doing anything so we can compete for the limited resources of human personnel out there? And I said a whole bunch of stuff all together in one.
I was trying to remember everything. Thank you, Councilwoman Surgeon, for your questions. I'm going to try to remember them all. If I don't, just
that's okay.
So as far as the job descriptions, yes, I know they're antiquated, and we are working on them. As more staff come in, we're tackling them. We're going to continue to tackle them and make them more new, I guess I'll say, because we know they are antiquated. So we are aware of that, and we're working on that piece. As far as posting, because you said a lot that we are doing down here as far as the trying to attract talent, right? An example for your lifeguards, we are trying to attract talent by increasing comps. Right, we meet weekly with the COO and team about critical needs and positions, and about just positions overall in the city. And like you said, what can we do? How can Hartford stand out versus a New Haven or a Bridgeport or even a Bloomfield or Windsor? Right, we look at the salaries. So we are as we speak, trying to increase salaries. We are increasing salaries. We have already increased some salaries, and we're doing more. And I'm sure you guys will see during the budget, because we're in budget season. So you'll see some more increases there. And we are trying to always make ourselves competitive, and again, trying to attract and retain talent, which has been a challenge in the past. You touched on another topic. What was it? You said something, and I had it on the tip of my tongue. Oh, the unions. Yes. So with the job descriptions, like you said, we have state statute. We can't change the job description qualification for a bargaining unit without going through the unions. But one thing that I was able to do so far, and I'm so excited about it, last year, November, I was able to work with HPA, which is the Hartford Municipal Employee Association union that manages has our managers and our supervisors union. I was able to work with the president and change one of the qualifications to include a 1-for-1, where meaning for education equivalent. So if you, right now, before November, it stood, if you were for a senior admin, you needed 4 years, you needed a bachelor's degree and lead experience. And so for people that didn't have a bachelor's degree, they couldn't qualify for that job. What I did was work with HPA and say, okay, we need to do a 1-for-1 for our employees. We need to do a 1-for-1 to attract talent, to say, okay, I may not have a degree, however, I have X amount of years that will qualify me equivalent to a bachelor's degree, so I can come in and I can do this job. Please don't discredit me because I don't have a college degree. Not knocking education, however, some people have the years of knowledge that should count for something as well. So we were able to do that with 2 job descriptions, and my goal is to continue one by one getting them done, because it's a lot of work, and it includes having to do an MOA. But we did do that, so we are working on that as well.
So through you again, Mr. Chair, so is there a timeline? I know it's a lot of different job description. I remember how much it is, but is there a timeline? Are you saying, over the next year or two, these are my goals to, get the job description, caught up to the 21st century? When I talked about thinking outside the box, the workforce is not like we used to, making sure someone, is at a desk all the time.
Did you? Yep. I'm sorry. That's exactly what I was going to say. That I had the remote policy where I've also been working with COO Thea Montanez and Corp Counsel, and we are in the process of working on a remote policy as well. That is in the works. We're working on that because, like you said, it is not like it used to be, and we are aware of that. So we are working on a policy that we can attract people and retain people as well. So we are working on that.
Oh, thank you so very much, because that was one of my issues we had in last year's budget. And one last thing, Mr. Chair, I promise.
Of course, Councilwoman Surgery, the floor is yours.
Thank you, sir. And one last thing also is, when you talk about diversity, yes, in response to Councilwoman Rossetti, we think of race or color, but there's also that diversity with female, and so there's a lot of, women in the workforce.
Yes.
Okay. So bottom line is, when you are looking at, bringing our workforce up to the 21st century, we've got some very talented women out there. Okay. Who may not want to be, want to drop the kids and get to work by 9 because city all opens at 9 or so I'm asking for you to look at little deviations like that.
Yes.
You may, maybe the department may want to open a little bit later in the day. So therefore, you can bring that diversity, into the city. And you can really attract some qualified females. And a lot of them are out there who want to come back in the workforce. Okay. And even the older retiree who wants to come back in the workforce, but have got umpteen years of experience and knowledge base, but they may not want to work 40 hours. How are we thinking outside the box and try to be creative, to making the city actually look, adorable to come to work for? Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Those are great points, and I have them.
I'm so sorry. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Sanchez?
Yes, I just want to actually my last question to you, Marlene. So civil service process. What departments does the civil service process affect? And can you give us a short explanation of how it functions?
Well, the civil service process affects all classified employees. So it goes for our DPW, our Hartford Police. It goes for every position that's not appointed, goes through a civil service process. And the civil service process is the application process, the T&E process, the qualification process. And so that's all a part of the civil service. So if you're not appointed, then you have to go through a civil service process of application.
Okay, so you just confused me.
Okay,
sorry. You said, no. So, I mean, you basically surprised me. You said DPW?
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned DPW has to go through a civil service process?
A civil service process, meaning like not all positions, right? Not every position goes through a civil service in DPW, but like the admin staff, they go through a civil service process. Our admin staff, just behind the scenes, our maintainers, they come in and they apply. Our maintainers, our seasonals, they come in and they're selected, they apply, they go through the process, they go through an interview process, they're selected by our director of DPW.
Okay. So I'm fairly surprised because I thought the civil service process only covered majority of which is the police department and the fire department, unless I'm thinking of something else, but it is civil service.
Yeah, you might be thinking about something else because the civil service process is the majority of our workforce.
Okay, and then, so for example, a police officer would have to go, or let's go to the firefighter, right? They would have to go through a civil service process first before.
Well, with police and fire, our sworn personnel, they go through a testing process. They have to come in, they fill out an application, and then they have the oral and the written, the oral, and then the physical exam, right? So that's their process. Their process is different than an admin staff. Admin wouldn't be going through an oral and a written and a physical exam. So those two are different.
Okay, so there is different levels of this civil service process then.
Process. Yeah.
Hopefully maybe on the next few months, maybe we can get a presentation on that one.
Okay, sure.
Thank you, Ms. Fleeting. Councilman Gale.
Yeah, just a quick comment, well, maybe a quick question. Thank you, Marlene. Ms. Fleeting, I will say I get those emails all the time from, I think it's Stacy Castiglione.
Yes.
Always sending me out to make me a better me. So, you know, I certainly know it as a city employee. It's great stuff. And kind of picking up, I think Councilman Sanchez kind of asked the same question. And I don't know if you just have it off the top of your head. I'm just interested in knowing, and maybe the data will tell us better, but I would imagine that there are some jobs for which we post, for which you get tons of candidates because we're very competitive and everybody wants the job. And there are other jobs that you post for which we get nobody. And clearly those are jobs for which we're not competitive and we probably need to address them. And we're coming up to budget season. And so I'm just wondering if off the top of your head, you know, which are there particular departments where we're really not competitive at this point, or is that something we should just, maybe you could just send us a little report about?
Yeah, I'll send you a report because I'm not sure. I can't really say off the top of my head. There's so many things. Again, we meet regularly about this, and it's a combination of departments that have challenges in hiring people. I mean, sometimes it's just like the time you can post a administrative assistant and you get 35 candidates that apply, and other times you post in something else, post an inspector or something like that and you get 2. You know, it just is you know, it depends, but I'll send you the data, and again, I think you guys will see, and I'm sure the council members, you'll see during the budget season a lot of the departments and what they're going through as far as data.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I know, Ms. Director Fleeting, you've been on for a while, so I'm just going to ask you, at least in my understanding, nationally, there's been a trend with HR offices, not just pertaining to Hartford, so I don't want to make this a Hartford issue, but nationally with HR offices dealing with work culture, the amount of time and human capital dedicated to work culture and trying to fix work culture issues. Can you give us an idea of how much of your bandwidth or your office's bandwidth deals with work culture issues? I mean, I don't know if it's stats. I don't know, just in general, you know, if you could just give us an update on how you guys handle work culture and what are you doing to kind of be preventative or trying to avoid work culture issues before they happen?
Great question. I may not have like specific stats, but as far as what we do, again, Karen Taylor is now here with diversity and inclusion. Diversity and equity. So we're really working with her on things. What I try to do when I think about work culture is like, how is the environment? What, you know, how are we having our employees? How are we living up to our policies and our city policies and things of that nature? And how are we making the environment? Because when I think about culture, it's the environment. So I do a lot of speaking to supervisors and managers and directors about making the environment a good, healthy environment that people want to come to work, right? It starts with management first. I really believe that. I personally, you know, for me, every single morning when I walk in, I greet every last one of my staff members. You know, I walk personally up to their desk to say good morning. Before they leave, I say good night to them. We have fun activities. We do things. We work really hard, and it's about treating people with respect and thanking them for what they do. A simple thank you goes a long way, and I tell this to people all the time. You know, a simple thank you goes a long way. So the culture here that I'm exemplify and try to spread out to everybody that I talk to is, you know, making it fun, making people want to come to work, making you know, them know that the city appreciates what they contribute. And I'll continue doing that. I'll continue spreading that. And then when you have that, then that's when you have less of conflict. You have less conflict. You have more communication. Communication is important. You have to know how to communicate. This is why another passion of mine is educating our supervisors and trainings and continuing training, because when you communicate to people, a lot of conflict is miscommunication, and so I work with people regularly about things like that. People call me all the time, and once they finish talking to me, they're like, "Wow, I didn't think of that," or and it's so cool. Like Councilwoman Surgeon said, the females, everybody calls me and we just talk, and I love being in this position because I've been there. I have the knowledge of the history of the city. I know what it is to be a single parent. I know what it is to try to juggle school, work, kids, and everything alone. I know what it is to go through tragedy. So I can speak to someone else on how to deal with tragedy, how to deal with circumstances. So it's about educating, communicating, and just knowing how to just pass that on to people. And that helps our culture, to me.
Thank you, Ms. Fleeting. Anyone else has any questions? Councilman Sanchez, I see your hand up, the virtual hand. No?
I forgot to take that down.
Okay.
It's not attached to me. So
no problem. Otherwise, if that hand was up that long, your arm would be tired. So, Director Fleeting, I welcome you to be a regular at our meetings, and if there's anything you need to update us on, I think there's some items that we'll continue to circle back on, and give you enough runway to be able to provide data ahead of time and those type of things. So all of us are just happy to have you on and discussing with us, and whatever it is that you need from all of us here to support your work and your efforts, please feel free and don't hesitate to reach out.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you, Councilman. I appreciate you all. Thank you so much. You've made it really great for me. Thank you for inviting me, and anything that you may need, again, I'll get the information to you. Anything in the interim, you can always call me, email me. I'm here and I'll respond. And thank you for all the work that you're doing and listening to the presentations prior to my turn on.
No, look like we lost her. I think once it passed 8 o'clock, like the Wi-Fi goes fuzzy. Director, I think we lost you, ma'am. All right. So that being said, Director, you're welcome to come on and kind of sign off if needed. If not, that's okay. We're going to jump to item 2.4, which is a resolution seeking to identify tax relief for solutions for Hartford residents. This was introduced by Councilman Gale, Council President Rosado. Director Fleeting, go ahead. You're exiting words.
I don't know what happened.
No, I'm saying that you got frozen, and so I didn't want you to end it that way. But
no, I'm sorry. I was just thanking you all. I don't know if you heard me. Did you hear me? Thank you.
Yes, you did. We did hear you.
Okay. Oh, I'm so sorry.
No
but thank
problem.
you all. I appreciate it.
Have a great evening.
You do as well. Thank you.
All right. Bye. All right, so we're going to jump to 2.4, which is a resolution seeking to identify tax relief solutions for Hartford residents. It was introduced by Councilman Gale, Council President Rosado, Councilwoman Surgeon, Councilwoman Rossetti, Councilman Sanchez. I don't know, is there anyone here to speak on this item? Councilman Gale?
So I'm a little confused. Did this also get sent to OMB, and is this scheduled for February 22nd OMBGA meeting?
It's on the agenda. It did surprise me on the agenda.
I think the assessor, I think we've had some communication with, this is the assessor's call. He spoke to us before about this.
Okay.
And I believe he's preparing a presentation, but I think he's preparing it for February 22nd.
Okay, that's not a problem, Councilman. Again, I've been out of pocket since Monday, so I didn't attend Monday's meeting, so I didn't know, and I thought I saw it, but I didn't know if it was sent to my committee. But Councilman Sanchez?
Yes, I'm looking at the agenda myself also. Maybe you have an updated version. I'm not sure. But I don't have that item on my agenda.
Okay.
I have 2.1, 2.2, 2.3.
2.3 is that one.
Okay, no,
2.4.
2.4.
2.3 is the old one. 2.4, again, there was the other agenda and now the new agenda.
Okay, so a motion to postpone that item.
Okay.
Second.
Yes. All right. So move. Anyone? Let's vote. So we vote on it. All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstain? No. Any abstentions? Seeing none. So move. We motion to postpone that item. Not sure why it came here. All right. So let's go back. Attorney Lombardi, the floor is yours. As you understand it, the ordinance, as you understand it, what is your thoughts in terms of an alternate member?
Yes, Councilman LeBron. So the language regarding the alternate that you read earlier is actually bracketed in the most recent version, which means that it was deleted when the amendment was made in 2021. So there is no authority, as I see it, for council to appoint an alternate.
Okay, I don't have it bracketed.
I'm looking at the version that you.
Oh, okay. So you're talking about, okay, so the parentheses makes it bracketed. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. Yes.
And so therefore it's deleted?
Correct.
Okay. All right. So there is no room for alternate members.
Correct.
Okay, great. So Attorney Lombardi, there's been some back and forth. I want to, if we can review the language on section 28-190, section A, last two sentences, which is the Board of Education and the city. I'm actually going to just share the screen so that way we're not going back and forth. Can you guys see my screen?
I can.
You can? Other folks can't?
No, I can see it. Yeah.
Okay.
Too small for me.
Too small. Let me increase. Is that good for folks?
That looks
Yes.
good.
Okay, great. So I want to go over this item here because there seems to be some understanding. And so I want to make sure that we're all on the same page. So it says the Board of Education and the City Council shall confer so that at least one member of the committee shall be a member, a retired member of the Minority Construction Council, or is a minority contractor or former contractor. So with that being said, let me stop sharing here. With that being said, a member of the Minority Construction Council can be on the committee. Is that correct, Attorney Lombardi?
Yes, and as I read the language, at least one member shall be on the committee, must be on the committee, or a minority contractor or former contractor.
Okay. I just want to just make that statement because there was some confusion back and forth if a member of the Minority Construction Council couldn't be on the building committee. Councilman Sanchez?
Yes, a question for Attorney Lombardi and the rest of the folks. So being that Bernard is also a contractor, he's on the MCC, right? And then now let's say he's going to get appointed.
It's not a contract. I'm sorry, Councilman Sanchez. Go ahead.
Okay, so is there a conflict with this appointment?
Right. So Councilman Sanchez, I was just going to go on to say to your point that the next sentence does make clear that any member that is appointed cannot be eligible, or any firm with which the member is affiliated will not be eligible to compete for any contract or subcontract for the school construction projects overseen by the committee. So this can be problematic if you are to appoint someone whose firm or who they themselves are working on a present school construction contract, and it would make them ineligible to work on any contract for the term of their membership on the board. So this is something that potential members should consider and that the council should consider as well.
So I just want to just make it clear, he's not a current contractor. He's a board member. Councilman Gale?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I don't think the issue is with Mr. Thomas, my issue, and I think it's everybody's issue. He's the chair of the Minority Construction Council, meaning that all the different minority contractors are essentially vote for him in his capacity to become the chair of this organization, and he oversees them. Puts him in an incredibly conflicting position to be on the board. I don't think ethically you can possibly do that, because he would be in a situation where he would be overseeing contractors that are part of his organization that he chairs. So I think any member of the Minority Construction Council could clearly be on this school building committee, but not the chair of the Minority Construction Council. That just seems to me to be fraught with issues. Having said that, and listen, I have nothing against Mr. Thomas. I mean, I appreciate the fact that he wants to come forward, but I believe that's far too conflicting a position for us to appoint someone to. Having said that, and without wanting to go through and try to figure out, we've got a lot of very qualified people. I think it's going to take us potentially some more time to decide these things. I'm going to move that we send back the other three names, not Mr. Thomas. I'm going to move that we send back Ilka Torres, Edison Silva, and Al Gary back to council with no recommendation, because it appears that we have only 2 openings at this point in time. So my motion is to send back those 3 names to council without sending back Mr. Thomas at this time.
Councilman Sanchez?
Yes, I'd like to request or ask Councilman Gale if he can change his motion to send back all 4 names to council for discussion in caucus. And then at the council meeting, we can vote that. We can make that decision. I think it's only fair because I'm curious as to the fact that do they realize this other sentence that, you know, basically stating what Attorney Lombardi shared with us as far as that conflict. I'm not sure if they're aware of that.
Councilman Sanchez, my feeling is I don't care whether that sentence was in there or not. And I'm happy to have to ask the question of our corp counsel. I think this is just a problem in any body where you're appointing somebody who's a leader of a group of people that you're going to be regulating. You're going to be regulating minority construction contractors. And here you're going to appoint their leader to be the person who's regulating them, putting the fox in the hen house, so to speak, and putting him in an impossible position. I just don't think it's an appropriate thing. And I don't know why we then, why would we continue to keep his name in the mix? It's not appropriate, unfortunately. I mean, again, it's nothing against the man, but the position that he's in a conflicting role.
No. So just backing up here and to Councilman Sanchez and Councilman Gale, I see a halfway point. So I think the first thing is that, you know, we received the recommendation of the Minority Construction Council. We did not make any exclusions as to the type of membership, right? The other thing too is in terms of regulation, the Minority Construction Council, as I understand it, is an advocacy group, right? To advocate for folks and provide opportunities for folks. They in no way, shape, or form regulate what minority construction people can or can't do. As a matter of fact, as an advocacy group, this provides you know, a light into or better transparency into you know, the processes and access to contracts. As we all know, we've seen and we've heard from our constituents time and time again that you know, the folks that are on these sites don't necessarily look like the people from Hartford. And I know that's debatable. What does somebody from Hartford look like? But I think we all know what we're trying to say here. So the goal of an advocacy group, and to have a member of that advocacy group, albeit, okay, the chair may bring more so consternation. That may be something, but we need to afford the opportunity for the Minority Construction Council to at least revisit, and or if Bernard Thomas wanted to recuse himself from the chair, if Corporation Council felt that it was conflicted, right? Because I don't think we provided the fair opportunity at this point. We asked for Minority Construction Council representation. We received it. And now we're going through that process. We need to afford them the opportunity to be able to course correct if there is a major conflict moving forward. The other thing too is that there's 3 seats available via this new ordinance, not just 2. But that's also room for opportunities for, and I just want to just clearly state for Majority Leader Clark to put himself in the mix as well. I think with that being said, and backing up out of this, I think that this, although it can be a difficult process, I see this as a blessing, right? I think overall, I think Mr. Gale and everyone involved would agree that for years, we haven't had the direct or any kind of representation. So I'm actually pleased that there's so much interest and there's so many talented people that can move forward. So I wouldn't want to eliminate someone based upon now kind of moving the goalposts, if you will. So that's my thought process. Yes, Councilman Gill.
Mr. Chair, I have to absolutely disagree. We didn't move any goalposts. The ordinance is very clear. The ordinance does not say it has to be a member of the Minority Construction Council. It says it has to be one of 3 different people. Correct. Either somebody from the Minority Construction Council, or a minority contractor, or a former contractor.
Correct.
So we didn't move any goalposts. So I absolutely disagree with your statement in that regard. I frankly just don't see why you want to continue to move this forward. You're going to have to make a decision at some point. If you want to put all 4 names forward, go ahead, but not with my motion. I don't think it's appropriate to put Mr. Thomas forward. I'm sorry that he, submitted his name to us, but he's just not appropriate being the head of the Minority Construction Council. And by the way, on the school building committee, he is not an advocate. He is reviewing contracts.
Correct.
He has the job of you heard the director of operations say they had to fire somebody. He has to decide whether you are producing. And that means he's going to have to decide whether potentially members of the Minority Construction Council who've gotten these jobs are producing. And it's going to put him in a conflicting role where he's not going to feel comfortable firing somebody that's part of his council, part of his advocacy group. And I think that's just a clear ethical problem. He might feel very comfortable firing somebody, but the appearance isn't there. The appearance isn't there when you're overseeing people that are part of your group. So anyway, we've spent a lot of time on this tonight. I'm willing to, there's 4 of us here. I'm willing to go along. If you guys want to send all 4 names, you vote for it. I'm not. I'm voting for 3 names back, not Mr. Thomas at this point. That's my motion.
No, I hear you, Councilman.
If there's no second, let's move on.
Yeah, it doesn't say not the board chair. Right? I mean, the ordinance does not say not the board chair.
Look, we're all individuals. You got to use your rational judgment to decide, these things. If he thinks it's appropriate, fine. I don't.
Okay. Councilman Sanchez?
Yes. Can we have Attorney Lombardi weigh in on Councilman Gale's statement?
Sure. So I unfortunately don't know enough about what the council does to be able to state with certainty whether it would represent an actual conflict of interest. I will remind council that in our ethics code, it also counsels against the appearance of any conflict of interest or appearance of impropriety. And so that's something for you all to consider when determining whether it's appropriate for this individual to serve on the board. And also the fact that if they will have to recuse themselves from so many votes so as to render their service ineffective, that should probably also be part of your consideration. You know, unfortunately, without more information, which I'm happy to get after the meeting about what the council does, I can't tell you, is it an actual conflict of interest? But those reminders about the ethics code may be helpful to your decision.
Thank you, Attorney. Through you, Mr. Chair, thank you, Attorney Lombardi. So I'd like to ask Councilman Gale, will you consider amending your motion? Give me a second. Will you consider amending your motion to send all 4 names with until we get an understanding of what Attorney Lombardi just stated as far as doing the background check, as far as the conflict and you know, whatever results we get from the Corp Council?
I'm sorry, you guys are killing this matter. Mr. Thomas should just be out of the mix. I'm sorry. He should just be out of the mix. You're prolonging your agony here. But no, I'm not gonna support that because I just don't think it's correct. But I'll withdraw my motion. Make your own motion and let's get out of here.
So
yes, Councilwoman Rossetti.
I am now in the position that I don't feel that I have enough information to vote in a way that makes me comfortable. I would like to hear back from Corp Counsel Lombardi. And I'm not exactly sure where that puts us.
Yeah, I think that's a good space because we don't have enough information. So, Councilwoman Lombardi, sorry to put you back on.
She's not a councilwoman.
I mean, it's 8:15.
But she can be if she wants right now.
I think she'll probably win by a landslide. Corporation Counsel Lombardi, is it possible for us to, and I hate, hate's a strong word, but is it possible to come up with a one-pager? Because there seems to be multiple questions. And again, we're moving on this ordinance and the fact that we have so much vested interest and so much belief in this, I think this is all good things. And so is it possible to come up with a one-pager, maybe everyone on this committee submitting some questions or something of that, or some kind of legal guidance around this matter, so that way we can kind of appropriately put buffers on either side or guidelines. I don't know what the legal term is, but provide a more accurate understanding, so that way we can vote with the most clearest understanding. That was a lot. Is that possible, Corporation Counsel Lombardi?
We're obviously always happy to answer any legal questions that you all have. So if there's something you want to submit now or after the meeting, we will certainly get back to the committee with an answer. The only question, as I understand it now, though please correct me if I'm mistaken,
sure,
is whether there is a conflict of interest in fact with the board chair of the Minority Construction Council
correct,
serving on the Hartford School Building Committee. You
correct.
know, knowing that, spoiler alert, anything that comes from my office is going to remind you about the potential for appearances of conflict
correct
of interest or impropriety, also being a violation of the ethics code. But if the question standing now is whether it is a conflict of interest in fact, simply by virtue of the chairmanship of the Minority Construction Council, my office will be happy to get you an answer on that. If there are other questions, feel free to email them to me or raise them now.
Councilman Gale.
I'm going to make another motion. It seems to me, of the candidates we saw tonight, there's one person who stood head and shoulders above everybody else, who's clearly qualified. I don't think there should be any issues about it. He's also a minority contractor, so he fits the parameters of the ordinance. And so I would like to move that we send one name back favorably. Well, we do whatever we do with the others, but we at least get one person on the school building committee. We send one name back favorably, Al Gary.
Any second?
I'll second that.
All right, so moved. All in favor of voting Al Gary back favorably, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any noes? Seeing none. Any abstentions? Seeing none. So moved. All right. So Al Gary has been recommended favorably. Councilman Sanchez.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion of the same to send another candidate that was already been submitted. The first two candidates, Al Gary is the first one, and Edison Silva.
Any second? All right, seeing none. I think we've kind of made our decision there, Councilman Sanchez. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Great taking a stab, I think. What I will recommend and for our committee is what we'll do is postpone the other three items. What I will ask my committee members and Lydia, my legislative liaison who's watching, for us immediately to huddle or at least send out an email regarding questions that we may have. I do have some other questions, but I don't want to belabor the point. We've been on for 2.5 hours, and provide all of our committee members the questions around ethics and guidelines and so forth and so on. Then we can come back with that and then be able to make a informed decision on the other three recommendations. Does everyone feel okay with that? Councilman Sanchez? Yes.
I'd rather send the three names to council so that we could discuss on caucus. I'd rather not postpone it. I'd rather send it to council with no recommendation, and we have that conversation, then we can vote.
All right. So are you making a motion, sir?
Yes, I'm making the motion to send it to council with no recommendation until we can get the information from Attorney Lombardi, Corp Counsel, and also we can discuss in caucus.
Any second? I'm actually going to second that. So moved. All right. So then I guess we vote now, right? All in favor of the motion to send back three folks without any, what did you call it?
Recommendation.
Without any recommendations until we get further clarity. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Any noes?
No.
All right. So no abstentions. So thank you guys for having this conversation. Although a difficult one, I think it's something I keep wanting to frame this in a positive light. And that for years, the School Building Construction Committee seats were not filled. And now we have an opportunity to fill them with talented people, but we still have further questions. So thank you, everyone, for being a part of this meeting. And thank you, everyone, for your dialogue and input. And have a wonderful Wednesday night.
Have a good night.
Adjourned. All right. Take care, everyone. Bye.